Hello, and welcome to Chapter 10, Social Media Research and Analytics. We've got 5 chapter learning objectives. When we complete this chapter review, we should answer 5 primary questions. How do companies utilize social media data and research to inform marketing decisions? What are the primary approaches to social media research? Number 2, what is the research process for collecting, processing, and analyzing residual social media data used in social listening and monitoring? Number 3, what are the common errors and biases associated with social media research? Number 4, how do brands develop social intelligence systems? Number 5, what is the difference between ethnographic and netnographic research? Let's get started. The role of social media research. I cannot emphasize this enough. We are attempting to make informed, data-driven decisions. Every decision we make should be based on what we know about 2 things: the target audience and the marketing environment. That's what all of your research is supposed to inform. What's happening in the greater marketing environment, and then who exactly is our target audience. Companies use social media research to answer the same kinds of questions that traditional marketing research can answer. The advantage is that there is an enormous amount of data called big data, or the textbook refers to it as big social data, available in social media channels. But everything we do should be based on research. What is social media research? Let's start out with a definition. Social media research is the application of scientific marketing research principles to the collection and analysis of social media data such that valid and reliable results are produced. When I started my undergrad program in marketing and business administration, my mind was set on fire with the possibilities of marketing research. Until that time, I was naively under the impression that brands just basically developed creative approaches to selling products to consumers. I had no idea that deliberate, methodical research underlaid everything that they did in the marketing environment. Most social media research uses some form of social media listening and monitoring, but it is also possible to conduct primary surveys, focus groups, and interviews in social communities. In other words, we conduct both secondary and primary research via social media. A couple of other things to keep in mind if you don't already know, many of you probably already do. The 2 types of research that can be conducted, as I mentioned, secondary research is information already collected and available for use. Secondary sources include internal data and reports, articles, journals, books, industry reports, free and paid, etc. Primary research collects data for the research purposes at hand. Primary sources include observation, focus groups, interviews, surveys, etc. Where social media intersects with secondary research is the fact that we are analyzing information that has already been published by audiences and consumers via social media. Social media monitoring and listening. On the one hand, we have social listening, which identifies and collects social data for analysis to inform strategic marketing decisions, as I mentioned before. This is a proactive use of this data. Social monitoring, on the other hand, tracks mentions of specific words or phrases on social media sites and triggers a company response when necessary, making it reactive. It's a forest for the trees example that the textbook gives. On one hand, we are proactively listening, which is a good thing. On the other hand, we're not only listening, we're responding to what is being said when necessary. There are three primary uses of social monitoring and listening that companies can use. Number one is social customer care. Number two is simply market research, as we've discussed. And number three is campaign assessment. However, social customer care still has much room for improvement. In fact, current surveys, as well as the textbook, give most firms an F for failure to take advantage of social customer care. Let's look at some ways that brands can use this kind of social media to identify service satisfaction issues. 67% of social media users have used a company's social media channels to reach customer support. Of those, 84% expected a response within the first 24 hours. Customers spend 20 to 40% more with companies that use social media to service customer care requests. 71% of customers who experience a quick and effective brand response to their issues are likely to recommend that brand to others, compared to just 19% of those who don't receive any response. Wow! 71% are more likely to recommend your brand if you take care of them. Sadly, only 1 in 10 customer care requests made on social media get any response. Hopefully, you are addressing this in your SMMP. Table 10.1 on page 318 looks at the Sprout. Sprout is a company. Social Brand and Consumer Index. The Sprout Social Index reports quarterly on data scraped from billions of messages, meaning it's secondary research, representing hundreds of thousands of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram profiles. This is by industry. So of importance, I think, in your efforts, take a look at healthcare, which is related to the pharmacy industry, as well as probably retail as well. And you can see a ranking in average response rate, average response time, how many hours elapsed, average percent messages needing response, meaning they just hang out there, and then average posts per reply, brand engagement ranking, and consumer engagement ranking. So whether or not the brand engages, and then whether the consumer then engages back. This is an area ripe for improvement. Some other uses of social listening, as we mentioned, social listening can also alert marketers to impending trouble for crisis communication that might be marked by a shift in the velocity of brand mentions or assess the impact of a PR crisis. This is also, we can use competitive listening, and competitive listening can mean that you are taking care of listening for your SWOT analysis, perhaps, those opportunities and threats, intervention, perhaps. So if a Delta customer tweets that, "Thanks a lot, Delta, I'm stranded in the LA airport," and Southwest Airlines is conducting competitive listening, then they can intervene and say, "Hey, we'll come on down to Terminal A and we'll get you rebooked at a discount perhaps, or maybe even without one." So competitive listening can definitely add value to social media marketing. In fact, we've got an airline example here, and they talk about share of voice in terms of mentions. Delta tops probably be in a negative way. United, Emiratis, American Airlines, Qatar, and Southwest would be an example of this kind of listening. Social media listening and the research process. Software or service systematically searches and scrapes data from social media channels. You can have your own software or you can hire a service to do that. Data includes both qualitative and quantitative. Determining appropriate research design and setting research protocols ensures data collected are appropriate for research uses. And common applications include sentiment analysis and content analysis. What is sentiment analysis? Sentiment refers to how people think or feel, especially feel about an object such as a brand or a political candidate, for example. Sentiment analysis is at its core attitudinal research. In fact, sometimes it's called opinion mining. We just did it differently prior to social media. My definition is a little bit more practical, as you can see in the glossary. Sentiment analysis is the process of determining whether a piece of writing posted online is positive, negative, or neutral. And again, you can see our course glossary to get that version of the definition. Marketers use sentiment analysis to obtain insight into the mix of product features people want and the product's strengths and weaknesses, and to indicate perceptions of the company in terms of product quality, service quality, performance, and value. What is content analysis? Related but separate. Content analysis is used to identify the presence of concepts and themes within qualitative data sets. The primary unit of analysis is the word. As images and video become more prevalent in social media, multimedia content analysis will become imperative. But however, it is very difficult still, even with artificial intelligence at the level it currently is, to understand what's happening in a photo and a video with any degree of accuracy. So on the right side of this slide, you're going to see what we call a word cloud. And this would be an example from an Uber content analysis type situation, where they are taking, the bigger the word, the more conversation is happening, the more content relates to that concept. So obviously in this example, NYC would be the top theme in terms of what is in the content of these conversations. So I want you to take 5. I want you to locate the free social media listening tools in Blackboard. And why not give How Sociable or Social Mention a spin? See what you can discover about CVS Pharmacy. No sign up or log on required. Come on back when you're done. Social listening versus social intelligence. We call it drinking from the fire hose. If you work for a brand of any stature whatsoever, it becomes quickly impossible to keep up with the river of tweets, the river of Facebook comments, everything that's coming in from Instagram, from Snapchat, and making sense of it all, being intelligent about it. So it is very difficult once you reach a certain level in terms of your brand size and brand presence to understand how to put things into context, and that's where social intelligence comes in. We've got a few concepts related to social intelligence. Social intelligence is capturing, managing, and analyzing social data to identify and apply insights to business goals. Predictive analytics is the use of data, statistical algorithms, and machine learning techniques to identify the likelihood of future outcomes based on historical data. We are predicting the future based on what has already happened. A social media command center is just what it sounds like. It's a central hub for monitoring social related to the brand's marketing objectives. Stations in the center focus on specific data such as brand mentions by influencers and customer complaints. Enterprise social listening is when brands pull global data from across the internet, integrate these data with other important data sources to enable multi-channel analysis. As I mentioned before, what's happening on Twitter versus what is happening on Facebook, mentions in blogs across the internet. All of these channels, we need to be able to analyze them in one place so we can make sense of what's happening overall. They provide easy-to-use dashboards and aid in the interpretation of data and in devising strategy based on the results. The last being the key, devising strategy based on actual data. That is the gold mine. I want you to take a pause now and locate an inside look at Dell's Social Media Command Center in Blackboard. Although she doesn't mention or show their enterprise social media management solution, I'm pretty sure it's Radian 6, which has since been purchased by Salesforce. What are the challenges social media marketing teams face making informed, data-driven decisions without the use of such expensive technology? Take 5 and come on back when you're done. So this is what a dashboard might look like. This is an example of the Radian 6, which is was formerly Radian 6, now Social Studio. I actually have experience with Radian 6. But you can see we've got various inputs. We've got some data visualization happening in the pie charts and in the graphing as we move from left to right. And we begin to see how dashboards bring things together so that we can make intelligent data-driven decisions, hopefully. Now we look at social media and ethnography. Ethnography is the systematic study of people and cultures. It is designed to explore cultural phenomena where the researcher observes society from the point of view of the subject of the study. It's a term and a concept we borrow from anthropology. Marketing ethnographic research is the study of people in their own environment through the use of methods such as participation observation, which we know as focus groups, and face-to-face interviewing, for example. Ethnography research, on the other hand, is methodology that adapts marketing ethnographic research techniques to study the communities that emerge through computer-mediated communications, meaning through social media. So we start with ethnography, we take that further and apply that to marketing ethnographic research, and then we take that one step further to ethnography research or ethnographic research. Say that 3 times fast. And we therefore can use that as a primary type of research in social media marketing. Common errors and biases that exist in social media marketing, no matter what, whether it's primary or secondary. Social media research is prone to coverage error, sampling error, and non-response error. Coverage error occurs when there is failure to cover all components of a population being studied. Sampling error is the result of collecting data from only a subset rather than all of the members of the sampling frame. Non-response error is the potential for those who did not participate to differ significantly from those who did. These are not uncommon challenges. No matter what kind of research you're doing, you frequently incur these 3 types of errors. That concludes our Chapter 10 lecture material. and we've addressed 5 primary issues. Thanks for listening.